All right, what's up, guys? Jeff Kamke here with Wealth Energetics. I'm looking forward to the conversation today with my good friend Matt Teuschel from Millennial Wealth Creator. We always have great conversations. And, a week or so ago, Matt, you did a really good video talking about inflation. And the way you started the video was talking about, kind of caught me off guard. Like you're talking about some of the things that you can do for your health that
Mhm.
can make a difference in inflation. I love the way you bridge the gap in that. So we're not going to talk about inflation today, but I do want to go deeper into what you and I have done with our health. I mean, you talked about organic food in that video, talk about, some other things that I want to get into and just pick your brain and what you found successful for yourself and maybe for some other people that have made a difference in your health and how that can translate into how you show up in your life and how you create wealth and success in your life. So happy you're with me, man, and spending some more time together, creating some good content. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's awesome. Always a pleasure. Really appreciate you having me. It's always a good conversation. And yeah, like when I did that video, I talked a lot about inflation. You and I did a great training on inflation strategies as well. Because inflation is just crushing people right now. It's just kind of out of control. But I think what's often not or what's excluded from that conversation is our productivity level and what impacts the productivity level. And that's our health. It's such a huge part of productivity, energy, and just being able to get things done. And I think you'd probably agree with me on this, Jeff, is that when I feel really good, I do so much better in my business or your job, whatever it is. Like there's just something about feeling good in your body, both just health wise, feeling good, like in the way you look when you look at yourself in the mirror, right? Just things like that. It boosts your confidence. It makes you feel really good about yourself. And that really helps you. This has just been my experience. It's really helped me show up so much better in my life, in my relationships, in my business. And I can tell a huge difference when I start to slack on my diet and my exercise, whatever. I've got a pretty strict routine about, my diet, intermittent fasting and exercise, and we'll get into that. But when I don't follow that, I tend to procrastinate more. I don't get as much done. I'm not as motivated. And over the long run, that has a massive impact on your productivity and the results that you see in your life. That hour or two that you spend watching Netflix because you just don't feel like working on your business, that compounds against you over time. You don't get that 1 or 2 hours back. And I just found that you're much more likely to be more productive if you have if you take care of yourself, if you have some type of routine for your health. So yeah, for me, it's not like a direct counter to inflation or anything like that, but it's one of those external rates of return that you get within your productivity with whatever you're trying to do to combat inflation, build a business, or whatever it might be. It's one of those things we don't think about. We're so focused on where can I put my money? What can I invest in? What's the new financial strategy I can follow? And a lot of times we neglect the person who's going to implement all of that stuff, right? So you have to take care of yourself. So I think that's just a huge part of it, and I thought it was worth pointing out.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, as we've heard from many great mentors, we're our greatest asset. And the point you just said, as far as, you know, you have to feel good in your body. And if you're your greatest asset and you're the driver of what could scale your income, because I know one of the content pieces that we did together around inflation and end up being talking about primarily how we need to be improving ourselves and
Right.
learning more skill sets that make ourselves more valuable to our customers and, that whole train of thought. And, if we need to do that, it's going to take more discipline. It's going to take more motivation, probably longer hours, maybe less sleep. And if we don't feel good,
Right.
like you're going to check out. I mean,
Yeah.
we've probably all been there at times where it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the capacity for it. Well, how
Right.
can you move that needle so that you can, it's not necessarily going to be an overnight change, some of the things we'll talk about, but it's something that if you do the right things long enough consistently, like I've heard from many mentors, the results will be there and you'll start seeing the gradual increase. And like, man, I am able to handle more. When things don't go good, I'm able to handle it. I'm able to get back on track sooner and
Right.
stay there longer. I can go more where I'm up later and maybe up earlier in the morning, less sleep, and I'm still able to focus. I'm still sharp. And, I don't, get into arguments as much or like all
Hmm.
these things that can come from that. It's just so very critical. So I'm excited to jump
It
in.
does.
So I'd love to know, a little bit about if you have kind of a backstory with some of this, like what, stimulated the need to look for health, changes? What were some of the things that you found to be most impactful? You know, whether it be exercise, diet. I know you've got your regimen like you talked about, but I'd just love to learn a little bit more about like what it's been like for you
Yeah.
and you know, the changes you've seen.
It's interesting because it feels very similar to what you and I do on the channel when we're talking about whole life insurance and all this stuff. We're talking about alternative ways of thinking when it comes to money, and it was pretty much the exact same thing when it came to health, at least for me, because I it's very similar in the sense that we're not really taught how to take care of ourselves. Just basic stuff. And here's the thing, it's not even complicated. It's not difficult. And when I'm talking about taking care of yourself, I'm not in like fitness or whatnot. You don't need to be a bodybuilder or anything like that. You don't need to be in the gym for 2 to 3 hours every single day and, you know, eating 1,000 grams of protein every single day. Like, you don't need to do all that in order to achieve optimum health. But very similar to finance, we are not taught just very simple, basic, but very powerful things to take care of ourselves. And I just blindly went through life for a good chunk of my life. It was up until about, I think I was 21, maybe. Fortunately, like when people hear that, like, oh, that's really young, and maybe it is. And I'm grateful that I discovered these different things. Like, I started down that path when I did. But it just seems to me like we should be taught this right away. Like, it should be in school as well. Like, people should know about this really early on, about, you know, discovering a health routine that works for you. So, you know, I don't even remember exactly what the light bulb moment was, what the trigger was that I was like, okay, I need to look into this. I think it was a documentary, actually. It was one of those documentaries about food. Wasn't really looking for it, just kind of came up and I watched it and I was appalled. Like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, like the things that are put in our food. So like when you go to the grocery store and you buy, you know, a bag of chicken, you buy some crackers, you buy, heck, maybe buy some raw beef, right? That you're going to bring home and cook. All these things, like even fruit, vegetables, like when you eat fruits and vegetables, you think that's healthy, right? Except if you don't buy the right kind of fruit or vegetables, it's actually very toxic for you. So we kind of go through life just assuming that because these items are in the grocery store that they're fine for us. But when you start going down the rabbit hole of all of the crazy stuff that is actually banned in many parts of the country, but is allowed here in the United States at minimal levels that the FDA, not FDA, is it FDA? No, not
FDA.
USDA, whatever.
Okay.
That they deem are, if you consume them in low levels, that it's not toxic. Like, we're talking about crazy stuff here, and once you start to see that, it becomes very uncomfortable to consciously continue to put that stuff in your body. So, like, do I really want to put this toxic chemical into my body? Not really. You know, I remember when I discovered how canola oil is made, and canola oil is in just about everything. You look at the ingredients on the food that you buy. It's in, like, some type of vegetable oil is always in the food, and how toxic that is, guys. I don't know if you know the history of canola oil. Canola oil was created, first manufactured in Canada during World War II to be a lubricant for warships. Okay, that's what it was made for. And then World War II ended. They had this entire manufacture or industry of canola oil now, so they figured out how to put it into the food supply. And when you know the process that canola oil goes through in order to become edible, to be put in the food, we're talking about it gets rinsed in sodium hydroxide, it gets rinsed in hexane, which is in gasoline, it then gets bleached, and that's the canola oil that gets put in the food. Is that something you want to consume? No. And it's highly, highly, highly inflammatory, right? So just understanding like basic things to avoid, which is a good majority of the ingredients, like what to look for. Just starting to put healthier organic food that's not filled with these vegetable oils and things, just this garbage. Like, you'd be amazed at how fast the body responds to that, and how fast you start to feel better. And so I started going down that rabbit hole, man, like just looking up different ingredients. Are they safe? Are they not? How is it manufactured? How's it produced? What's the processing look like? And I kept going down that rabbit hole trying to figure out, okay, where's the good stuff, right? Because I want to live as long as possible. I want to live a healthy life. I don't want to be, 50 years old on 15 different medications and developing cancer and like all this crazy stuff. It's like 1 in 2 people will develop cancer in their life. That's crazy to me. And I truly believe it's because of all the garbage that we consume every single day. And so it's about becoming more conscious and aware of what you're putting into your body every single day. So like eliminate the soda, get rid of the vegetable oil, stuff like that, stuff that causes so much inflammation. And, I've had this said to me before. It's like, well, Matt, you're like, if I refuse a particular type of food item or whatnot, I say, I just don't eat that kind of stuff. I'm watching my diet, whatever. They say, oh, you're young. You don't have to worry about that. What are you worried about? It's like, no, now is the time to worry about it. Now is the time to develop the good habits so that it's not a problem later on down the road. Not to mention, I feel 1,000 times better when I'm not consuming that stuff. So that's a little bit of the journey that I went on. Then I discovered, various other different things as well. But it was that documentary and learning the different types of ingredients that are in food that you want to avoid. That was like the big light bulb for me.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, there's so much to talk about around all that. I don't even know where to begin because, our food is, I think the analogy that I always come back to, I don't even remember where I heard this, that, think of ourselves, if we are like our greatest asset, like I said, think of ourselves like a high performance, race car. Like you give the lowest grade, you put in 87 octane into a top fuel dragster. Like, no, you don't.
Right.
Like you put in the best of the best fuel. If we saw ourselves in much of the same way, we would not be going to McDonald's and Burger King and drinking
Right.
Coke and Mountain Dew, because that's not fueling for our body. And I know there's my background, I have a lot of background in alternative health and some certifications and some of that. So I've dabbled in all this stuff for a long time. And there's a concept called biotransmutation that you can put in garbage food, but your body has to work overtime to convert that into something that the body can actually use, which is like terribly inefficient. We talk about efficiencies in finance, and that's in our health, terribly inefficient. And, I've joked with people before, we've talked about this at like seminars where, if you had a car and you could put orange juice in it, but then the orange juice had to be converted over to gasoline, like how many people would be doing that? Like your miles per gallon would be crap. It takes all this extra energy to do it. Like it doesn't even make any sense, but that's exactly what we do with our body. We put in fuel that wasn't designed for us to run on. And then we wonder why we have all these health conditions. We wonder why we have mental problems and we don't sleep good and our body aches when we wake up. And like, that's the key. You have to put in what the body's required to do. The body's not meant to have all these chemicals. The body's not meant to have sugar like crazy, and talking about canola oil, my mind went to sugar as well, because both of those are genetically modified. Like over 90% of sugar in the world is genetically modified. I don't know the percentage of canola. I think it's like 70% of canola globally is genetically modified. So not only is everything you talked about, absolutely, it's also genetically modified, which messes with your gut, creates even more inflammation. And sugar, I mean, I think at any given time, there's only supposed to be like a teaspoon of sugar in your blood at all times. And if you drink a soda, you've just, how many times over put that much more sugar in your body. And then it's always funny to
think about how many sodas you drink per day.
Exactly.
You're talking about just one bottle of soda.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I know people that do 4, 5, 6 bottles of soda a day. And so you're a ticking time bomb. But that part is so amazing to me, because there's almost this attitude that if you develop, type 2 diabetes because of all the extra sugar, like your body is just stupid because it doesn't know how to handle all this sugar. And it's like, no, your body was never designed to have that much sugar in it. It's so, again, so much more we could get into around that, but it's interesting to me because, at the foundations of needing to, I think, learn, like you said, what's on labels. You need to be an expert label reader. You need to take this upon yourself. The government isn't coming to save you on this one. You want to improve your health. You have to know what's going in your body. You have to become educated and know what ingredients to look for and know which ones to avoid. know which ones you can go to. And, it becomes a very short list of the things that you go into a grocery store, you can feel good about putting into your body. Because
Right.
like you mentioned, the vegetables and the fruits, I mean, there's the thing called the dirty dozen, which is like the fruits and veggies that get the most pesticide sprayed, like strawberries are at the top of that. So if you're going to
Right.
get conventional strawberries over organic ones, like, okay, you're getting a lot of pesticides, those
Right.
absorb into the skin, they absorb into the fruit. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's low amounts, but guess what? A little bit here and
Yeah.
a little bit there over 20 years, that's where we have a lot of the problems.
Jeff, just here's the question that I ask people about that. Like, if it, like sometimes it comes up and I get a little resistance on it, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I just buy conventional apples and strawberries or whatever. And then I ask him, like, you were saying, even if it's minimal, which it is regulated or whatnot, but if you were to cook dinner, you've got your plate on the table, and I were to just come up really quick and just to do a quick spritz of Raid bug spray over it really quick, just a little bit, nothing crazy, okay, minimal. Would you be okay with that?
Yep.
Probably not, except that's exactly what happens before it gets to the grocery store. It's insane. And I know those things like you need to wash it off, whatever, but I'm sorry, I don't want any of that touching my food. I don't want my food around it. Like that, it's just insane to me that that would even be allowed to be sold to people. So it's just a different way to think about it. And you're mentioning about becoming aware of like different ingredients. Like it really does come down to educating yourself, just like we talk about in finances, educating yourself on what the best options are, how different things work. And it really is very important that you start to study these different ingredients. I always recommend a YouTube channel. His name is Dr. Berg. You probably heard of him, Jeff. He has fantastic content about just putting good food into your body and what to avoid and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, it's going to become very, very difficult to go grocery shopping. I don't know if this happens to you sometimes, Jeff. I actually get pissed sometimes. Like I've become better with it over time, but I lose my patience sometimes when I go to the grocery store and I look, I turn the food over. I look at the ingredients list. I'm like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? Why? Why do you have to put that stuff in there? Like, does it make that big of a difference in cost, in price, to make something with extra virgin olive oil instead of canola oil or avocado oil? Like one of the things that my lady and I do now, because she's kind of gone down this rabbit hole with me, is any chips that we buy or really anything, like a good portion of what we buy has avocado oil in it now, as opposed to all of those crappy vegetable oils. Because here's the thing: is like I cheat on my diet sometimes, and it's okay, right? The body is an amazing organism. It can handle so much. It's designed to keep us healthy, to get rid of any toxins that we might accidentally consume. So if you do it every once in a while, it's fine. The problem is that people are doing it the majority of the time. It is the majority of their diet. So if you want to eat a bag of Doritos every once in a while, nobody's going to yell at you for that. I certainly won't. I eat my bag of Doritos every once in a while. I love a good pack of candy sometimes. I'll take a swig of Coca-Cola here and there. Okay, it's fine. But it's got to be moderated. It's very, very small amounts, right? And so back to like when you start to go down the rabbit hole, it becomes more difficult to go to the grocery store because you start to realize how many of these food items are complete garbage and contain nothing but trash. And you have to find very specific brands and types of food, whatever. Some stuff I have to order online because I can't get it at their grocery store. And it's a little bit of a different lifestyle change, but for me it's a small price to pay in order to have really good health. Like when I go to the grocery store and I see people with the grocery carts full of just garbage, soda, cereal, and potato chips and all this crap, it's like, I mean, what do you expect is going to happen? And I think I'll finish up with this, Jeff, and I'll pass it back to you. I think you like you were talking about the education part. I think part of the problem is I think about like smoking, right? Like why people smoke and are not too concerned with how awful smoking is for you. It's because it doesn't do anything to you in that moment.
Right.
right? It takes a while for the negative consequences to start to rear their ugly head, right? And it's the same thing with food, right? Like you eat this crap every single day, you drink your soda every single day, whatever. You don't have those. The health consequences of it aren't instantaneous, but I'm telling you, give it 5, 10, 20 years. Like everybody's a little bit different, but man, it's going to catch up to you. Not to mention what we were kind of started off with here earlier is it impacts your productivity levels. I would just challenge you guys, take 2 weeks, cut out the soda, cut out the crap, give it 2 weeks, see if there's a difference in how you feel. See if there's a difference in your energy levels, your sleep, your productivity, all this, your motivation. See if there's a difference, and then see if you ever want to go back to that crap. That's what I challenge you to. So I think it's just like there isn't that instantaneous negative consequence, and so people tend to just kind of brush it off. Oh, it's not a big deal. I'll deal with it later.
Yep, totally. Yeah, I think for me, a lot of my light bulb moments were coming through middle school, high school. I had acne really, really bad. It was called cystic acne back, they might still call it that now, but that's what it was back then. And so, I had been on like all the regimens of drugs and it didn't really do a whole lot for me. And I can remember asking the dermatologist, like something I'm eating or whatever, like what's going on? They assured me it wasn't anything with my diet, but they really could never tell me why I had it. Like that
Right.
was always a bizarre thing for me. So, I started really immersing myself in a lot of info and, found that, oh, the skin is your largest detoxification organ next to like, your liver and some of those other organs. So if those organs like your liver are compromised or slowed down from your diet being so bad,
Right.
then when your body's trying to eliminate toxins, it goes to the skin. So that was my first clue of like, oh, so it does matter what I put into my body. It
Mm-hmm.
does matter wheat and dairy and sugar and how inflammatory they are and how they plug, your detoxification pathways and what they do to your gut and how they, irritate the gut lining and like all this stuff. And it's like, oh, so I need to stop eating those things. And so I did some shift in diet. I did some cleanses, which are just like combinations of herbs that help clean the colon and clean the liver and all that stuff. In like
Nice.
2 weeks, my acne was gone after, I don't know, 6, 8 years of dealing with it. And it was
That's
like,
crazy.
oh my gosh, there's some significant thing here. This is something that people
Right.
need to know. And not that I've been perfect ever since. I mean, my gosh, diet's not always at the forefront of everything I'm able to focus on in life. I mean, yeah, you go through phases where you eat like crap but then you pay the consequences. You feel it,
Right.
like I know I'm in a phase right now where I've been crazy busy and I've increased dairy and wheat. And, I have
Mhm.
aches and pains in my body. When I get off that stuff, I feel amazing, and so there's other things that we'll get into in the conversation where I share some other stuff that I've done, but I want to, finish up on just the food because, I learned about that if you eliminate or at least reduce significantly wheat, dairy, and sugar, a lot of your health problems will potentially go away. I mean, this isn't
Yeah.
health advice. We're not, FDA approved to say all this stuff, but I think it's common knowledge out in the marketplace now. Like if you make some changes in your diet, like your body will recover. Your
Right.
body has the ability to heal. It's just we're blocking that ability when we're putting garbage food in and it's
Right.
having to do what it does with all the garbage food. And if you put in nutrient dense foods that aren't also with toxins, like we talked about, if we get the strawberries with the pesticides, like, all right, let's just do the strawberries. And, the whole organic side of that, a few things I've really resonated around organic is, it's so much more expensive. And if you do a reframe on that and say, well, it might be true, but you should also look at it as like organic food is kind of the way food's always been produced historically
Right.
before the invention of chemicals. So then you have to ask yourself, and this is the reverse frame, if organic food is this price, how are they able to produce the other stuff cheaper? Like that's the difference you should be concerned about. Like, okay, if organic strawberries are $5.99, but the conventionals are $2.99, what did they do to it that's going to compromise my health that allows them to sell it cheaper? Like
Right.
that's the correct viewpoint on it, not I can't afford the better stuff. I'm just going to eat the crap.
Right.
Like, no, there's a reason they cut corners somewhere. And much like we talked about with IULs and a lot of things, like they're shifting the risk. They're
Right.
shifting the risk to
Good point.
you, not the policy holder, but you, the consumer of the food, like
Right.
it's crazy when that kind of stuff happens. I mean, you got
Yeah.
to understand what's out there and organic isn't always better, but you just have to understand there's certain foods that are definitely ones you want to go towards.
Yeah.
Organic cookies, like, okay, are organic cookies better than Oreos? Like there's probably less toxins in them, but it's still wheat and sugar and dairy, and it's still going to be bad for your health. So you still need to know, like for you, what do you need to eat that's going to make you feel good? And there's no, I mean, you could go to the library or Google what's the best diet, and you're going to get 100 opinions. So you have to
Right.
figure it out for yourself.
Yep.
And what you need, test some stuff. And I mean, for me, I've been on this journey since I was 18 or 19, so much like you, very young when I was blessed to figure this out. I wasn't, 40 and had cancer, and then I had to go, oh shit, I got to figure this stuff out. At
Right.
least you're young, and acne is a lot less of a big deal than cancer and heart disease and all this stuff. But you have to be educated on reading your body and figuring out, like, when I put something into it, how is it? Does it make me feel better? Does it make me sleep better? Do I have more energy? Does it do the opposite? And you have to be responsible for yourself and learn what works good for you, because, and
Yep.
obviously you can go to doctors, you can go to functional doctors. There's a lot of great chiropractors and even medical doctors that do a lot of, very holistic. They look at the whole person and understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can obviously help you with blood panels and things like that to cut right to the chase and what you might need if you're in a pinch or you need a dramatic shift. But other than that, like, you have to take it upon yourself to figure out what foods were good for me, because for some people, they might want more meat. Other people, they
Mm-hmm.
might thrive on a vegan or vegetarian diet. Like, there's a lot of things there that you just have to figure out for yourself.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on all different kinds of diets trying to figure out what my body responds to. I think that's the key, and why this can't really be health advice, because everybody is so different. We're just talking about generality, or just general concepts here. I went like, I completely cut meat out for a while to see if that worked. It did not. I have about 50-50 right now, 50% meat, 50% fruits and vegetables. And that works really good for me, but it took me a while to figure that out. And I would just add a little bit more to what you said about organic being more expensive. So a couple things there. One, is it more expensive than when you get sick?
Hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure healthcare costs and medical expenses are ridiculously expensive,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not to mention you're miserable. Okay. So that's number one. And number two, what I have found, it's really not that much more expensive. It's really not. When you know what to look for, like when I go to the grocery store, I might spend a few extra bucks total on my bill buying organic stuff. It's like some items are quite a bit more expensive, like salad dressing, for example. I pay $8, $7 to $8 for one bottle of salad dressing. That's pretty expensive, okay? But it's worth it for me because all the other salad dressings, I'm basically consuming vegetable oil. And the salad dressing I buy has avocado oil in it, which is far healthier, right? But it's worth it to me because, again, I know what it does to my body and how I feel. I want to feel good. And two, I don't want to get sick, right? And so there are some items that are more expensive, but you'd be really surprised. Like beef, for example. When I go to Sprouts and I get my organic grass-fed beef, it's only $1 more than the conventional beef. That's not expensive. When I buy my organic apples, it's I got organic apples at Publix the other day for $3.99. It's really not that much more expensive. You just have to look. And also just make a commitment, I guess, to wanting to be the best version of yourself, wanting to be as productive as possible, as healthy as possible. Why wouldn't you? And I think too, once you try it and you see you experience the difference in how you feel for yourself, the cost is not an issue anymore.
Right.
You'll know you'll figure out what to look for and how to make it work. Trust me, because it's really not that big of a difference. And then at that point, it becomes about figuring out what works best for you. And I don't even know that it's like a specific diet. I guess it would just be creating your own custom diet on what your body responds to. And it's going to take a little while. The other thing you can do is I did this DNA test through 23andme.com. I think you could do it through ancestry.com as well. But the doctor I was working with, he recommended 23andme. And you send in a saliva sample, they process it, and the doctor actually goes through the raw data with you and analyzes your DNA. And he can pinpoint exactly what types of foods to avoid. So for me, he said, avoid dairy at all costs. Every once in a while, it's okay, but your body is not really designed to process dairy at all. Brussels sprouts. Here's the thing. I love Brussels sprouts. He said, I would avoid it if I were you. Every once in a while, it's fine, but based on what I'm seeing in your DNA, I would avoid it. So I don't eat Brussels sprouts anymore. So, that's a little bit more advanced, hardcore. You don't have to do that right away. You want to get the basics in place first. But there are things that you can do to really get dialed in with your diet. And once you find it, man, it's just awesome. And then I think also combining it with intermittent fasting. Again, go to YouTube, look up Dr. Berg, look up intermittent fasting and what that does to the body. Oh my God. It's so simple. All you're doing is basically, if most people were to just skip breakfast, you could do intermittent fasting. That's it. Breakfast is actually not the most important meal of the day. It screws up your intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting is one of the most powerful things you can do for your health. It is awesome. And again, just based on my experience, when I started doing it, holy smokes, did I start feeling better, especially when I was working during my intermittent fasting. Man, it's just things just flow so much better, man. You're just in the zone and you're focused and you just feel really good. So for me, it's like my formula would be like, so I intermittent fasting, get your diet right, exercise, move your ass every day, something. Okay. Again, you don't have to be in the gym for an hour or two, but like I work from home. So I need to make sure that I get up literally off my ass and move. Okay. I'm good about going to the gym. I do like 4 or 5 times a week. Got a very specific regimen that I follow. And, but I'll take a walk around my complex. I'll walk up to the grocery store or something like that. I get outside, get moving, right? Move your body, right? You do those 3 things, intermittent fasting, get your diet right, move. And I don't see how you could go wrong. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Yeah, totally agree. Let me share a couple of last things on the food. I think one of the things that I found early on when we shifted to mostly organic food back when I was, late teenager, they tasted better. I mean, I enjoy food so much better. I can remember one of the first things we tried was organic butter. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like, wow, this does taste different. And then you wait like a couple months and you go back to like conventional butter.
Yep.
You're like, oh my gosh, this stuff tastes like crap. Or there's no flavor at all. Sometimes my dad and I would joke, like, they forgot to add flavor to this because it just didn't taste like much. And so, I mean, but like the raspberries, the strawberries, everything tastes better.
It really
There's
does.
reasons for that. One, yes, there's not the toxins, but usually the farming methods are superior when you're talking organic food. The soils are better. The farming methods are better. They're probably not going to pick it as early, maybe. If there's less quantity, they don't have to pick it as early. There's a lot of factors that play into that the food tastes better. And if it tastes better, there's probably more nutrition in it. And I know there's a lot of data out there. Dr. Berg might talk about it. I know a lot of others do about soil levels of like less minerals in the soils, and that obviously transfers to the food you're eating. So you're eating food that doesn't have as much nutrition in it. So yes, you might say, well, strawberries are strawberries. Well, no, they're not, because if you did like an actual nutrition breakdown of like what's in it and the quantities of different vitamins and minerals and things in it, they're not the same. Like those panels don't come out to be the same. And I think between the taste and the actual nutritional content, like that's part of the reason you need to make that shift. So yeah, as far as, the other stuff you're doing, I've never done a whole lot with intermittent fasting. For me, I'm like you, I've found that I have to have meat. I don't do well without meat. And maybe I haven't been without it long enough to come over the hump, but I just always feel better when I have meat. It's always been me. Can always increase vegetables. I think that's always the thing. I typically, my gap to fill there is like a NutriBullet, do a NutriBullet. Like I've been doing that recently, do a NutriBullet in the morning, half with like mixed greens and mixed fruit. I'll vary the fruit up a little bit, throw in a scoop of some protein powder, maybe some green powder, just that does really good. Like it just is for me the easiest way, because I don't do salads that well, especially in the summer months. Like I need something that's going to satiate me a lot longer. Salad I seem to burn through in the summer really quick. So, and I do a lot of physical labor, for my other job. So I think those are, a couple things with that. And then, exercise. I mean, it's like anything with health. I think there's so many different things you could do. You could listen to different experts and say, oh, you need to run long distance. Oh, you need to do, high intensity interval training. Oh, you need to do weights. And it's a customizable thing too. You have to figure out, try different things. And, I've heard stories of doctors talking about, patients that come in that they used to, the client, they're overweight, they can't lose weight, and they run 5 miles a day and they can't lose weight and they hate the exercise. And it's like, yeah, you're not in a good cycle there. Like pick something that you enjoy, and just that mental shift with the exercise can be the difference between, you losing weight or not. And And running long distance might not be what your body needs to be healthy. It might be quicker bursts, or it might be playing a sport, or, you know, there's all kinds of things you can do to move your body. That doesn't mean running on a treadmill for an hour or
Right.
pounding the weights. Like, there's so many things you can do. That you could do it with friends. You can go on walks. You could go, you know, play basketball. You could, there's just
Hmm.
endless things you can do. Use your imagination, but you have to figure out what works good for you. I know for me, I like weight training. That's the thing that I've always enjoyed doing. I've been doing that since high school, early high school. Like, me and some buddies, we'd work out. I enjoy that, you know, individual competitiveness where it's me against me. And I gotta, you know, have the mental toughness to push more weight and do more reps. And
Yep.
you see the physical change. Like, I like that. I don't like running. If I do, it's short
Hmm.
bursts. You know, I'm not a long
Yeah.
distance runner. I hate running. You know, I
Me
enjoy
too.
basketball. I enjoy throwing a football around. You know, I was at a buddy's house that I haven't seen a whole lot in the last few years, but we got together, our families, last weekend, and, you know, we were out throwing a junior sized football in a vortex for, you know, 45 minutes. And it was like,
Nice.
now this is it. You know, like, we're talking, we're having good guy conversations, we're out in the yard throwing a ball. Like that's fun. That's uplifting to the spirits. And I
Sure.
think, you know, not only do you need to think about what you're putting into your body as far as food, you know, maybe making up some gaps in your diet with supplementation. You know, obviously that's a whole, you know, rabbit hole, and there's differing opinions there as well. But, you know, doing that, and, you know, the right amount of liquids that you're drinking, water in the
Mhm.
right forms, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I think it's also like, who are you around? Like, it goes beyond just exercise and diet. It's, you know, if you're married or have a spouse or significant other, like, is that a positive relationship for you? Do you like
Right.
what you do for work? Like, there's a lot of other things that play into your overall health that
Yep.
aren't just your diet and your exercise. That if you hate your job, you hate your spouse, you hate where you live, you hate all this stuff, like, that's going to have a drain on your body too, and
Yep.
limit your resourcefulness to, like we talked about in the beginning, be productive in what you're doing and being able to reach your goals and expand the business and impact other people. Like, you have to sometimes take a hard look at all that stuff and, like,
Yep.
do I need to get serious about my diet? Do I need to get serious about my movement? Do I need to get serious about, I need to make a change somewhere in my life? And gosh darn it, it might be really hard to do. I might need to change jobs. I might need to relocate to a different city. I might even have to figure out something different with a spouse. You know, I don't know what that means, if it's a divorce or just a really hard conversation or
Yep.
counseling, but I mean, that's the reality of life. Like, if it ain't working for you, I go back to, you know, good old Dr. Phil. I mean, I remember back in the day, I used to watch some of his shows, and
Mhm.
he'd ask somebody that, you know, was a mess, like, how's that working for you? And
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, if it ain't
Ah.
working for you, like, look at something else, you know? So if your
Right.
diet's not working for you, see where you can make some changes. Take some of the stuff that we're talking about, you know, look at some things differently, try some different foods, eliminate wheat for 90 days, eliminate dairy for
Yep.
90 days, eliminate sugar for 90 days, walk a half a mile every day for 90 days. Like, you will see a difference, you know, it will make a difference in you. And if you need to do the harder stuff too, like, you know, sometimes you got to take a deep look at your emotional state and how it's impacted by the things in your environment. Like I said, your job, and, like, you might need to get serious about that. Like, hey, my job is killing me. I know some people that have, in the last few years, have made that transition. Good for them. They've had the courage to do that. That it wasn't easy. It was a big impact on their finances or a big impact on their family, but they knew that if they stayed on that track, like, they might not be here. Like, their job was literally killing them. You know, like, I know
Right.
one guy that's a friend of mine. He's actually gonna be joining Life 180 probably here. He's studying for his exams right now, and he's been a long time bus driver, and, you know, 17 years working 80, 90, 100 hours a week, driving bus, eating at gas stations, eating fast
Man.
food. And he's like, this is literally killing me, Jeff. And so I know he's made some big changes in his life, and you know, kudos to him for doing that, because it's not an easy thing to find the courage within yourself to do that. But, you know,
Yep.
your health is worth it, and your purpose is worth it. I know it's kind of cliche, but I mean, it just, at the end of the day, it's true. I mean, I think we're here
100%, man.
for more than just eating McDonald's and diet sodas and watching Netflix. And, like,
Right.
we've got a bigger purpose, and we need to take care of ourselves to do that. So we're here
Yeah,
to talk
it's
about
yeah, it's interesting you bring up the job and the spouse aspect of it too. I again, personal experience with that. I used to get really bad heart palpitations
that. Mm,
when I was working a specific type of job before, obviously before what I do now. I love what I do now. And but that's the point is when I made the shift, it was tough. It was really tough, and it was part of my journey of like just completely ruining my life financially, a while back. But I've recovered from it. But with regards to the health, though, as soon as I started doing something that I enjoyed doing, I and I wasn't with the woman I was with at the time anymore. And I got that toxicity out of my life that was not in alignment with my spirit and what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be with. I don't have heart palpitations anymore. So it's crazy to think that the stress of something like a bad relationship or a bad job, like, again, it's one of those indirect experiences that you have, one of those indirect, some of those indirect consequences. You don't think it has an impact on your life, but it absolutely 100% does. They say that stress is the silent killer. Stress is, there have been some studies that I've seen that stress is literally the worst thing for your body. Prolonged periods of stress, which a lot of people are like just under constant stress because they're not in a good relationship, because they hate their job, and you're in that constant state of stress. That's worse for you than vegetable oil and sugar and all this other stuff. Studies have shown. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. It's bad for you, right? And I've seen that. I've experienced that firsthand. Like I would call the emergency room sometimes. Like I feel, I don't know if I'm having a heart attack right now or not. I can't tell. It just keeps kind of going in and out. It was really scary. But as soon as I got rid of that toxic relationship, I started doing something I enjoyed, started seeing success with it. I've never had an issue with it ever before or ever again. And so these are things to really take into consideration. And I totally agree that it is beyond like fitness and nutrition and stuff like that. I like starting with that though, because it's so much easier to like, we have so much control. You could literally start changing your diet and fitness today, right now, if you wanted to. All right. Obviously, I mean, you could still have a conversation with your spouse. You could, tell your boss to F off or whatever, right? Do what you have to do. But, that might take a little bit more time. But right now, you could throw out the soda. And guys, there's I haven't had soda and I can't even remember. And I remember when I was a kid, which I don't even know how I'm alive, because I used to drink so much soda because I didn't know any better. My parents didn't know any better. It's just like, oh, you drink it and that, not a big deal, right? And I haven't had soda in so long and I don't even crave it anymore. And there's plenty of easy ways to replace soda. Like, do you realize how much of an impact that would have on your health if you just stop drinking soda, just stop drinking crap? Start with that, because that's easy. There's like a superfood green powder that it's organic. I dump it into water, gives you a full serving of fruit and vegetables, and it tastes amazing. It has this awesome sweet berry flavor. I can't remember the brand name. It's like Purely Inspired, and then something Farms. I can't remember. I buy it on Amazon, right? And you can get it pretty cheap. It's like $30, 20 or $30 for a 30-day supply. You put that in water. I'm addicted to it. I love it. I have like one or two, usually just one, but sometimes two a day. And it's so good for you. And it's an easy way to start replacing the garbage. Food. I have like a superfood protein shake that I make every day. It's my first meal of the day. It tastes phenomenal and it's so good for you. And it's a meal replacement. So now I'm not eating, instead of eating this plate of garbage food that you normally might eat, well, let's start with the shake, okay, and just kind of ease your way into this. Continue doing your lunch and dinner, whatever, but start doing something like replacing the soda, and then replace a meal with something really healthy. Start there, and I'm telling you, when you start to notice the difference, you're going to want to do more, and you're not going to want to go back to the trash, because it just, like you said earlier, Jeff, it doesn't taste as good. Like the bags of Tyson's chicken that I used to eat, I hate Tyson's. It's such a terrible company. But I don't crave it anymore. And like when I think I am and I buy it and then I eat it, I'm like, oh God, that was not worth it. I did not enjoy that at all. And it's because your body has finally detoxified itself of all this crap. Not to mention you're building up new habits as well. I find that it's really in the mind. It's not even really that your body's craving it. It's just this habit that you've developed that you have to change. But these are simple things that you can start to implement in your life. And then as you start to make that progress, now Again, because you're feeling better about yourself, your self-esteem is improved, your confidence is improved because you're proving to yourself that you can make this change. The greatest motivator in life is progress. I learned that from Tony Robbins. Okay. When you start to make progress with something, anything in your life, you feel really good about yourself. And so now maybe you're better prepared to have that difficult conversation with your spouse or your employer, whatever. Like you're in a better position to have that conversation now, right? So you could start to see how this builds on itself as far as the impact in your life that it can make. And all it starts with is a simple decision to start cutting out the crap. Get rid of the soda. Find a really good protein. I love Purely Inspired organic protein powder. You can get it on Amazon. It's like $17 for a big jug of it. Okay. You put that in water, shake it up. There, I put blueberries, organic cinnamon, organic ginger, apple cider vinegar. I put in it as well. I put some like MCT powder oil. Like it's like a super shake. All right. You don't have to go that far. All right. But it's chocolate. It tastes really good. And it's a phenomenal start to your journey in optimizing your health and getting rid of the crap. So that's kind of what I would finish up with there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think, anybody that's listening to this, they might think, wow, you guys have done this for a long time. Like, you don't have to start trying to do it all, like catch up. Like, you
Right.
can start with you need to like cut out one thing permanently. Like, say, I'm going to drink sodas instead of 7 days a week. I'm going to drop down to 5. I'm still enjoy my diet soda. Like, shift to water the other 2 days. Like, that shift alone, you'll start seeing a change. You don't have to go cold turkey and like hardcore. Now, if that's your personality, go for it. But I know a lot of people that they need to make gradual shifts and gradual changes. I've been implementing things for, I'm 38, 20 years I've been doing this, where I've been making subtle changes and understanding and trying what works, seeing what doesn't, getting off track for a year, get back on after you realize like, I was a stupid year of decisions and what I ate. And, like it's just part of the journey, but, don't feel like you got to do it all up front. Like you can make subtle changes over time. It's okay to have a goal and aim a little lower and hit it than trying to be perfect and not hit it.
Right.
That's a big thing that I've had
100%.
to learn in my life. Like for me, I'm all about like, I got to be perfect and go all in. And it's like, I can't sometimes sustain that. And then I get frustrated because I'm not perfect
Right.
versus if you like make the commitment decision up front, like, all right, I'm going to at least cut out half, I'm going to at least enjoy some of this still or do this, but I'm going to make a shift part of the time. Like, okay, that is the progress that you're talking about. Like you can see positive change even from that, even though you've kind of got a foot in the old world with the old diet or the old routine, but you're starting something new, like that alone can make your shift and you can add to it. I mean, start with diet. Okay. Then, maybe 6 months or a year later, like start with exercise. Like you don't have to do all of it right now. You can make those changes over time and you'll still get the compounding effects from it. And, so yeah, I think that's kind of, some really good stuff. I think the last couple of points I want to add, this a couple of things that have been really profound for me in the last probably year or two. I recently, I think it was just before Thanksgiving last year. I think you and I have talked about this, off camera. I've done grounding mattress sheets where
Right.
plug it into the
Yep.
wall. That right there, Matt, has been one of the most profound things I've done for my health. Like I can't believe the difference. I mean, it doesn't substitute poor diet, doesn't substitute not exercising.
Sure.
But when you add these things together, there's a compounding effect. We talk about compounding with finance and our accounts. Like there's a compounding effect too when you start eating better and you start exercising, and then you do some of these other things that kind of are an adjacent add-on to some of those things that might not be the core things you do. I mean, I remember the first night my wife and I slept on this mattress. It's just like a fitted sheet with like a grid pattern of silver sewn into it. Like it feels like a normal sheet. Plug it into the grounding outlet in your wall outlet, and like I slept so good that night. I've always slept good, but I slept even better, and I had more energy in my body. Now that we've been doing it for over 6 months, my clock, my like wake up time clock, I'm always awake at about the same time naturally now. Like I'm waking up because I almost like I'm tuned into the patterns of the earth. And I think you are because you're magnetically plugged in, but my body's felt better. I've had less inflammation in my body because I was dealing with, some of that achy joints and stuff, from poor diet, too much wheat and dairy and sugar and stuff. And, again, that doesn't solve all the problem, but I felt like it reversed the clock 10 or 15 years just by doing that. Like it's been
Right.
amazing at how much better I feel. Like if I don't get enough sleep one night, I'm not just like wiped out. I can go on 5 or 6 hours of sleep and I still feel like I got 8. Like it's made a big
Hmm.
difference. And I've shared this with a few people, a couple guys even on the Life 180 team, and they've had profound experiences too of like, I can't believe how much better I feel. My body feels better. I've got more energy. And like, I
That's
mean, it was
crazy.
like $200 for a pair of sheets and they last, they'll probably last 10 years. It's not like a huge investment to do it. And
Right.
it can have such a big, big change in your health. So, and if
It's
you read, like
interesting.
you do some research online, you go on Amazon, you go on like Facebook, read ads on it. I mean, like I bet 75% of the comments are like profound shifts that people have had in their life, not like one or two random ones. And most people are like, no, it didn't work. I mean, like most of the comments are like, my arthritis is better. I'm sleeping better. I'm off pain meds. I mean, it's like, holy crap. Like that's pretty significant for bed sheets that cost $200 or less. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty darn cool. So that's been a
Nice.
really, one of the things that I've added in. Just, I'm 19 years into my health journey and I added something in and it added to whatever else I was doing. It just made a big thing. And the
Yeah.
last thing that I've done in the last couple of years, one of our clients, he's on the medical advisory board for a CBD oil company, and I've been
Hmm.
doing CBD regularly. And that on top of the grounding, I mean, it's got a lot of anti-inflammatory properties.
Right.
One of the things that he's educated, I've got a podcast on my channel that you can go look up. Dr. Bruce Phillips, him and I did a podcast on this back in the spring, and he went into the CBD. And there's a lot of data out there on CBD that your body, every cell in your body has a receptor for what's called an endocannabinoid.
Right.
That you're
Seen
actually,
that.
there's like a governing system of your body called the endocannabinoid system. And when that system is optimized with CBD, all other systems of your body are more regulated. Your
Wow.
immune system, your digestive system, your respiratory system, like it's like the master control that regulates and balances out all other systems. So if you are supplementing with CBD, like full spectrum CBD, like
Hmm.
you're going to have the potential for better mood, better health, like all this different stuff. So I've been doing that real regularly, and I mean that's been a big game changer too. And I know it can for some people be a little more controversial, like, oh, are you taking THC and all this stuff? Like, I mean, you can get it without it, and
Yeah.
it's a purely, it was taken out of the medical journals and medical education back in the 1940s. Like they didn't want that known, and now all these years later, there's a ton of data out there about how amazing that is for your health. So
Right.
that kind of gets off into the supplementation topic, but those are a couple of things that I've done just in the last year or two that it really made a big difference for me. As I'm getting older. I mean, heck, I'm 38. you know the things that do come sort of naturally, A, kind of because of aging, but B, because we aren't taking as good a care of ourselves. Like you can implement things that you can reverse that
Yep.
and feel better again. And so if you're watching this and you're not where you want to be, like there's hope. You can make some changes. If you have a big health problem, like you can implement some of these strategies and improve it. The power of the
Yep.
body is there to heal. You just have to
It
stop
really is.
interfering with that power to heal. So I think those are my kind of final thoughts. Any final thoughts from you,
Yeah.
Matt?
Yeah, just a couple final thoughts. Touch on what you just mentioned about the body being able to heal itself. I have a friend that was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes,
Hmm.
and he's the type that if a problem comes up, he just figures out how to solve it. And he didn't accept it. He's like, dude, I'm just gonna get rid of this, right? And he did a radical shift in his diet, and he doesn't have type 2 diabetes anymore.
Yeah.
It's gone. And
Yeah.
we're taught, we're led to believe that these chronic illnesses or these illnesses that we develop just in general are permanent. And it's because you're like you said, your body, like you mentioned earlier, Jeff, like your body is stupid and it's just not responding the correct way or whatever. No, we're just not putting the right stuff in it. And when you do, you'd be amazed at how fast the body will go back to normal, will heal itself. So I've seen people make radical, like have radical changes in their life just because of their diet. I have a buddy of mine. He's not that much older than me, and he was starting to experience, pretty bad chest pains, and he just had a lot of inflammation. He was really uncomfortable, joint pains and stuff like that. I was like, dude, we talked about his diet. Like, what are you consuming on a regular basis? And he used to be a roommate of mine a long time ago, and I would see him eat the ramen noodles every single day, and just all this trash. I'm like, dude, what are you putting into your body? And sure enough, I mean, he's not perfect. His health's not perfect. It's a journey, but he feels so much better now that he takes his health serious. He takes what he puts into his body very seriously. So yeah, it's a gradual process, and like you, Jeff, I continue to add things to my regimen as well. The two things you just mentioned, you mentioned the sheet in the Dominican. I do still need to get that. I'm pretty intrigued, and the CBD oil. I've done hemp oil and stuff.
Right.
It's a little tough to get over here in Florida, but
Right.
uh, one of my favorite hacks is the sauna. Oh my God, I love the sauna. I do the sauna almost every single day for at least 15 minutes, usually 20. That has profound health benefits long term. Cryotherapy, having exposure to extreme temperatures, both hot in the sauna and cold with cryotherapy, really, really, really good for the body. So there's really cool things that you can do. And last thing I'll touch about on the fitness, I just thought you brought up a really good point where you have to, just like your diet, you have to figure out what works best for you. Yours was lifting weights. I really enjoy lifting weights. I also really enjoy high intensity interval training. I literally just started that maybe 2 months ago because I'd always really done the weight training because I hate running as well. I'm just miserable on the treadmill, man. I can't do it. But that doesn't mean you can't get your heart going. I just got a freestanding kickboxing bag. I'm starting to do some Muay Thai, put it in my garage. Muay Thai is phenomenal cardio workout. Any type of martial arts, and it's a blast. It's so much fun, not to mention the stress relief too.
Right.
So my final thoughts would be, guys, just, start down the journey and see where it takes you. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You don't have to do anything that Jeff and I have said specifically, but just get started and see what your body starts to respond to, and build that custom routine and regiment for yourself that works for you. It's optimized for you. And I think it could quite literally be the best decision you ever make, is to start taking your health seriously and to discover what it is that your body needs. What is it going to respond to? So that'd be my final thought.
Yeah, I think to wrap up, I think to bring this conversation full circle, I mean, we started talking about, what the impact on our health have with all this. And I think, specifically, if you're feeling better in your body, you're in a better mood, like, okay, are you going to be more motivated naturally? Probably. You have more discipline. Probably you're not going to be as pulled off to go binge on Netflix or something. If you're feeling good, you're going to be like, no, I want to do the things that are going to move me forward in life. Are you going to show up differently with your family and your spouse and, communication at work? And like, you're probably going to do all those things better. And that by default is going to mean you're going to have better results. You're going to have more progress. Like you talked about Tony Robbins, like you're going to see more progress, and that's going to build positive momentum. Like, I want to keep doing this. It's working. I'm seeing the progress. I'm eating better. I'm showing up different. I got more energy. The people around me enjoy being around me because I'm not grumpy anymore. Like, all that stuff starts to add up, and then boom, like, then you might have new opportunities that show up. Your business might expand in ways that you didn't think about, just because, not guaranteed, but you're definitely not going to get there if you keep doing the same crappy things that aren't getting you where you want to go. If you make these changes, you just don't know what doors can open. You start going to the gym, like, okay, you could run into people that you could, do business ventures. Like, you have no idea the opportunities that can come by making a change. And, I think that's really what it comes down to. I know that we have similar spirits on this, what we share with content. I know it's kind of off the beaten path of like money and finance and life insurance, but it's just such an important part of life that
it is
affects those other things. It's not going to directly affect, your money per se, but it's going to. And, even with life insurance, like if you're in better health, you're going to get a better rating on a policy. It's going to cost you less money. It's going to be more efficient financially to do that move. Like, it's a compounding effect. And so,
it really is.
Just getting going, getting started, you have questions, reach out. I'll put the link to your channel and website, Matt, in the description with this video. And, if anybody wants to learn more about this, you can, in my description, you can click a link, schedule time. We can do bioenergetic sessions that go deeper than even what we're talking about in this video. I did a call earlier with a gal, had a phenomenal call. They're just dealing with some of the deeper things in life that can be stuck inside our psyche, and ways to release that. And it improves body function, that it does a lot of the things that we're talking about today, where you're feeling better in your body because you're releasing stuck stress and emotions that are those repetitive ones that they get subconsciously locked in. So, happy to share anything more. If you guys have comments, leave them. I'll always definitely get back to you on those things. And if you have questions about what we're doing, brands or ingredients, I'll probably produce some more content specifically on this channel, getting into some more of that stuff, because it's good to know. And obviously Google is a great resource to just Google some of this stuff and and
Yep.
learn a lot. But if there's specifics, leave them in the comment section below. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel here. So anytime we produce content like this around doing the inner work, our health, our personal well-being, or finances, you're alerted when we produce new content. So thanks for being with me, Matt. Always a pleasure to hang
Yes,
and
sir.
discuss cool topics. And we'll
Yep.
look forward to next time.
Thanks for having me, man. Always a great time.
You bet. See you.